Okay, so Debbie, if you will begin.
Let's see, it says I need to ask you to give permission to record.
I thought I just did. I just did.
It was permission to record. Let me see, this may be fine. Here we go. So let's begin. We'll relax, release, and bring the mind home. To relax, assume your meditation posture. And take several deep cleansing breaths. And scan your body and notice any places where you're holding tension. And release the tension there. To release, take a look at your mind and notice any speed and aggression from the day, any agenda items that are lingering. And just let those go, falling away. And bring your mind home to its natural spaciousness. And as thoughts arise, just be like an old man watching a child play with amusement, no attachment. And with this attitude of spaciousness and non-grasping, let's begin by establishing our motivation. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the suffering that is free from sorrow. And may they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion.
Very good. Thank you. To continue our opening prayers, if we can all go to page 14 in our Bardo Thodol book, page 14. This is the purification. So this is the 100-syllable mantra. And if I can ask Sandra, if you will read this, please. And you can lead, let's see, if you will read page 14 and 15, and if you also include the italics where it gives the translation for the mantra, and then if you will lead us recite the 100-syllable mantra 3 times, please. And I'm going to put up a picture of Vajrasattva as we do that. So, and okay, is that okay, Sandra?
Sure. Om Ahom Bodhicitta Mahasukha Janadatu Om Rulu Rulu Drum Om Drum Hom Om Ahom Bodhicitta Mahasukha Janadatu Om Rulu Rulu Hom Drum Hom Om Ahom Bodhicitta Mahasukha Janadatu Om Rulu Rulu Hom Drum Hom. It is the unified intention of the body, speech, and mind of the 42 peaceful and 58 wrathful deities of the great Buddha field that displays the wisdom that cuts through all ignorance to manifest their wisdom for the benefit of the enlightenment of all sentient beings. From the field of reality's expanse, uncreated and pure, within a celestial palace, which is a seminal point of light, pure, unceasing, and radiant, through the natural expressive power of one's own mind, uncontrived and empty, intrinsic awareness, radiant and empty, arises in the form of Vajrasattva, seated upon a bejeweled throne adorned with lotus, sun, and moon cushions. The right hand holds a Vajra at the heart, symbolizing the union of awareness of absolute wisdom and emptiness. The left hand supports a bell resting on the hip, symbolizing the union of wisdom appearances and emptiness. And the head is adorned with a garland of perfect Buddhas, representing the 5 enlightened families of those gone to bliss. Thus, Vajrasattva manifests in the form of the Buddha body of perfect resource, exquisitely adorned with silks and jewels, seated in the posture of royal ease, with the right leg extended and the left drawn in. Radiating at the heart is the seed syllable Hom, surrounded by the 100-syllable mantra. Om Benzo Sato Samaya Manu Palaya Benzo Sato Tenopa Tishto Jito Mebawa Sutokayo Mebawa Supokayo Mebawa Anurakto me bhava, sarva siddhi me prayatsa, sarva karma sutsam me, siddham triyam kuruham. Ha 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 ho, Bhagavan, sarva tata gata, benzra mame munsa, benzra bhava maha samaya sato a. Om benzo sato samaya, manu palaya, benzo sato tenopa, Tishto Drido me bawa, Suto Kayo me bawa, Supo Kayo me bawa, Anurakto me bawa, Sarwa Siddhi me prayatra, Sarwa Karma Sutsam me, Siddham Shriyam Kuruham, Aha ha ha ho, Bhagavan, Sarwa Tata Gata, Bensra Mame Munsa, Bensra Bawa Maha Samaya Sato Ah. Om benzo sato samaya manupalaya benzo sato tenopa tishto drido mebawa sutokayo mebawa supokayo mebawa anurakto mebawa sarva siddhi me prayatra sarva karma sutsame siddham shriyam kuruham ha 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 ho bhagavan sarva tata gata Benzra mame munsa benzra bawa maha samaya sato a.
Thank you very much. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Anything you want to talk about the past couple about the last couple of weeks or anything? So if anybody has a comment, question,
I have one question real quick.
yes.
We were just setting things up and I may have missed something. What did we do exactly just then? It was just a Vajrasattva practice?
It was the purification practice that is on page 14 of the Bardo Thodol book.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I didn't catch up in time. Thank you for clarifying.
Okay, so there's been a fair amount of detail that we've been going through the past couple of 3 weeks. And we've sent some information to you all through the email. One is a spreadsheet that lists the deities of the 5 Buddha families, the 5 peaceful Buddha families. So I hope you all had the ability to be able to print that. If it may be very helpful to you in your studies and so on as a reference guide. It's very quick and so on. It doesn't give a lot of detail insofar as each of the particular deities and so on, but it could give you pointers of how to spell things. Maybe you can figure out how to pronounce things, and maybe you can use your book to find more information about those particular deities and so on. So I hope that helps everybody. If you need a spreadsheet printed for you and mailed to you, I will do that. Just please let me know and I'll be happy to take care of that, because I think it's important to have these kind of resources. I know over my career of doing this, I've had lots of resources like this, and it's made so much difference in being able to organize all these what seem to be disparate things, but to be able to bring them into an organization that makes sense to me, and I think to all of us. Is what the intention of this book is all about. Last week we were talking about the gatekeepers, the 4 gatekeepers, and also about the 6 sages. So there was one thing that we didn't get to talk about with each of them. So I would like to screen share something with you so that we can review that. And let me see here. So this was the pictures. So I think we can get rid of that. Then we need, that was the mandalas. This is the photo slides. Here we are. I hope everybody can see this. So, so here is a illustration, and these photographs are actually in the book by Gourmet Dorje. So you can see them. I think eventually, if you all want color pictures, I can print these and send these to you if you would like them. But I just want to review these gatekeepers. And if you refer to the mandala that you've had for a couple of weeks now, and the gatekeepers are the male and female gatekeepers that are like a step to enter into the peaceful mandala. So you all should have that. And I just want to point out, here is a symbolic representation, of these gatekeepers. So it's not an actual thing that we would experience in the Bardo. We might, manifest something like this in our meditation, but it is something that is a symbol. It is not an actuality. So it helps to guide us in the direction of what the representation is here. So this particular gatekeeper is Trailokya Vijaya. And you can see he's got a human face, and his consort, White Dakini, are both, very human looking, and they have white bodies, and they're very fierce, and they are in union with each other. They are standing on a lotus pedestal, and on the lotus pedestal is a sun seat, a sun disk, which represents wisdom. And surrounding them is this areola of fire, of flames, which represents the burning intensity of the wisdom fire. To burn away all confusion, all negativity, all emotions, and mental misconceptions, and so on. So these gatekeepers are there to more or less test us, to prepare us to be able to enter into the heart center where the 5 Buddha families are. So you can see here the gatekeeper Trailokya Vijaya is the natural purity of eternalism view, the view of eternalism and the pacification aspect. So there's 4 extreme views, and eternalism is one of them. There are 4 enlightened activities, and pacification is one of them. So he represents the purity of that view and that enlightened activity aspect. His consort, White Dakini and Kusha, is the natural purity of miraculous birth and compassion aspiration. So the miraculous birth is one of 4 different modes of birth that we can go through. So miraculous birth, there's womb birth, there is egg birth, and there is heat and moisture birth. Those are the 4 forms of birth. So last time we talked about this, and so if you want to be able to view our recording of this, it is available on YouTube. And you can also look things up and do a little research on your own. So the compassion aspect or the compassion aspiration are the 4 immeasurable aspects of bodhicitta. So we are aspiring for bodhicitta. So bodhicitta, as you all might know, is loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, and equanimity. So White Ankusa is the purification, is the natural purity of the mode of miraculous birth and the compassion aspiration aspect of bodhicitta. So, and Trailokya Vijaya is in the eastern quadrant of the mandala. Then next is in the southern quadrant in the yellow family, this one here, Trailokya would have been in the white family. Now in the yellow family is the gatekeepers Yamantaka. So you can see his body form is basically the same as we saw before. The difference is his body color. His body color is yellow, while Trailokya was white. And the consort deity is their body color is different also, but the other aspects are basically the same. So here in the southern quadrant is Yamantaka, and he is the natural purity of the nihilistic view, nihilism, and the enrichment aspect of the four enlightened activities. So the four enlightened activities are pacification, enrichment or increasing, then magnetizing, and then subduing would be the fourth one. So this enrichment is, Yamantaka is the natural purity of enrichment. Yellow Dakini Pasa, his consort, is the natural purity of the womb birth and the loving kindness aspiration of bodhicitta. So again, these gatekeepers are like they are like testers, for lack of a better word, to test your understanding, to test your resolve, to test your knowledge of the things that are causing your suffering and preventing you from entering into the heart center of the peaceful deities. So they are there to be sure that you are firm in what it is you are doing. So then the next one in the Western gate is Hayagriva, who has a red body, and he is the natural purity of egoism, the egotistic view or individualism extreme view. And his enlightened activity is the magnetizing aspect. So he is the natural purity of those two. Red Dakini Spota is the natural purity of the egg birth and the empathetic joy aspiration of bodhicitta. So, so then the last one is in the northern, the green quadrant, and this would be the gatekeeper Amranta Kundalin, who is the natural purity of substantialism, or sometimes called materialism, and the subjugation aspect of the enlightened activity. Subjugation is in this quadrant. And then the green Dakini Ganta, his consort, is the natural purity of heat and moisture birth and the equanimity aspiration of bodhicitta. So again, if you have questions, we can talk about it, but we talked about it in more detail last week, so I refer you back to that or to the book, or if you write me questions, I'll try and answer them for you. Then next we talked about the, there was another mandala that I sent to you through the email. If you printed that PDF that I sent that had these different mandalas. So the mandalas of the sages, the 6 sages, these are the 6 Buddhas of the 6 human realms. And if you remember, these 6 human realms are the psychophysical drama of the human condition. So here are illustrations that are symbolic, but helps us to understand, to remember these sages who are there to rescue us, to help us to not fall into these 6 realms and be lost in these 6 realms. So here in the God realm is Indrasaka, who is the natural purity of pride. So this is in the God realm, and you can say that you can see that Indrasaka is playing a stringed instrument. So he's like an artist, a musician, or could be thought of as some other kind of an artist who represents the compassion aspect of the suffering of beings, to be able to help those gods to recognize the suffering that human beings are going through, so that they do not turn a deaf ear, so to speak, away from human beings. So then the next is Vidyadhara, who is the sage of the jealous gods. And he is the natural purity of envy, the natural purity of envy. These are the jealous gods who are in constant conflict with each other and are subject to their heedless pleasures. So here, Vidyadhara is holding a blazing flame sword to cut through their dualistic nature of the jealous gods, to cut through, and then in his other hand he's holding a shield here to protect him, to protect those jealous gods from being injured from the other gods while they are coming to realization of their situation. So the flaming sword is cutting through their ignorance, cutting through their envy, cutting through their confusion, and the shield is there to protect them so that they can have a moment of reality, a moment of clarity, of realizing who they are, where they are, and why they're there, and how it is that they can rescue themselves from this particular realm. Then the next one is Shakyamuni, Buddha Shakyamuni, that we're all familiar with. And he is the sage of the human realm. And he is the natural purity of attachment. So in the human realm, desire, attachment is the primary emotion that we go through that has caused us to be born as human beings. And he has a staff to be able to protect other beings, that this staff rattles and makes noise, that we don't harm other beings as we move about on the earth. So it's like the staff of Kasiti Garba that lets people know that we are coming, that lets beings know that we are coming. But most important, he is holding a bowl in his left hand of Amrita, of the elixir of the Dharma. So the Dharma is the teachings of the Buddha, that is actually the embodiment of all the liberation on the causes of all the attachments and the emotions and so on of beings. So this Dharma elixir is the primary vehicle in which we all are able to overcome our suffering. So we see that each of these sages, each of these Buddhas is standing, which means that they are very active. They're not sitting, they're standing, which makes them more active. And they are standing on a moon disk, the white disk it's a lotus flower, which comes from, arising from defilements. And the moon disk is symbolic of the compassion aspect of the wisdom, the cooling, the moon disk, the cooling of that wisdom heat. So these are peaceful sages who are there to, as I said before, rescue us from these 6 human realms. So these are the 3 higher sages of the 3 higher realms. And then of the 3 lower realms is Stursimha is the sage of the animal realm. And he is the natural purity of delusion. The animals suffer from great ignorance. So Stursimha is holding a book. If you can see this right here, it is a Pecha book, the long book like our Bardo Thodol book. And so this book represents the education, the training, to overcome our ignorance, to overcome our delusions, to enlighten ourselves through knowledge of who we are, where we are, why we are there, and so on. So this is Stir Simha. And then the next is Valamukha, who is the sage of the anguish spirits realm. And this is the hungry ghost realm, or the Preta realm. And the Preta realm beings, if you remember, are suffering from great misery of their insatiability. They are very round, they have very small arms, they have very small legs, they're rather immobile, they have very long necks with a very small mouth, and they can never eat enough, or they can never drink enough to satisfy their thirst and hunger, which is symbolic for all the different things that we would wish to accumulate for ourselves, and so on, wealth and power and knowledge and relationships and so on. They're insatiable in all these different ways. So Zvalamukha is the natural purity of greed, which is the root cause of this misery, of this insatiability, their greediness. And he is holding in his hands, usually in the right hand, he's holding a casket. In this illustration, his hand is in the offering mudra, is in the boon giving mudra, but usually there's a casket there of food. And in his left hand, he's holding a little flask, a jar of water. And the casket would be of food. So generally, it's illustrated that Zvalamukha is offering this food and this water to be able to help these anguished spirits to have a moment of lucidity and realize why it is that they are in this realm and how it is that they can liberate themselves from this. So he's offering the food and the water to be able to give them a moment's pause in their suffering. And then the next of the 6 sages is Dharmaraja, who is sage of the hell being realms. And in the hell being realms, there are 8 hot hells and there are 8 cold hells. And so he is holding in his right hand, he is holding, you see this flame, this fire to give warmth to those that are in the cold hells. And he is holding in his left hand, he is holding a shell that has cold water or ice in it to be able to give peace, to help those beings that are in the hot hells, to give those beings a moment of pause, of being able to recognize their situation of being in those particular hells, and being able to recognize the Buddha, and being able to recognize their own liberation from those realms. So here's how we would liberate ourselves from each of these realms. So he is the natural purity of aversion or hatred or aggression or anger is what he is the natural purity of. So all this is detailed in the book and is in the mandalas that I sent to you. So I wanted to point these things out to you and pronounce their names, and so that maybe you'd be inspired to do a little bit more research with this. So does anybody have any comments or questions about that? I know that's a lot real fast.
Lance, I was just thinking, I'm wondering if you can send the images in email format. I ask because being in Canada, it's going to push the price up for me.
Oh, that's absolutely true.
Yeah, I could just take them to a Photoshop and have them print out.
Yes, I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Would everybody like that? Is there, does anybody want them printed? I can print them for you, but I can send them in an email. And if you have the book, they are in the book, although here they are enlarged and they are embellished with their names and meanings and so on. So there's a little bit more information with this. Anybody else got any comments or questions about that? Was this helpful?
Lance, I have a comment just from practicing the text in the most recent weeks when we got to the gatekeepers and the sages. I realized something, and I guess I'm saying it here now to just make sure it's right, that the gatekeepers have both compassion or both peaceful and wrathful aspects. On the one hand, they're part of the peaceful deities mandala, but on the other hand, they're on sun discs and surrounded by flames and very much look like wrathful deities. And then as you went through describing both the male and female symbolism, the first one, or one always seemed to be related to the enlightened state and the other to the samsaric state. So pacification for Vijaya related to the enlightened state, but eternalism related to our human state. And that seemed to carry through for male and female all the way through. And I thought, isn't that interesting? They really bridge the peaceful and wrathful deities. And then with the munis, the sages, they seem very interesting because with the 5 Buddha families, we always have that choice of going towards the brilliant wisdom light or falling into the habitual samsaric light and going to one of the 6 realms. And if you just were to stop there, it would seem kind of like, oh my, I could really be lost and there'd be no hope. But then the sages seem to be there to remind us, since they're Nirmanakaya representations of Avalokiteshvara, that no matter where we go, even to the darkest corners of samsara, they're there with their compassionate action to help us. And so anyway, I was just having those thoughts come up, and please let me know if I'm off with any of them.
No, it's very good. And so I think to point out that there are many opportunities for us to be rescued from being lost in the bardo and being able to thereby be liberated. So there's many opportunities for us. So these gatekeepers in particular, you see, I'm showing here on the screen, and you've got this, if you printed this or you're familiar with this mandala, that these gatekeepers are here on the outer periphery of the mandala. They are part of the mandala, but they are like a doorway. They are a gateway in or out. So from the top down, they are helping us to recall our training that we have had as human beings, so that we can recall the different aspects of what it is that they are symbolic of, so that we remember and we can go back into the center, so to speak, to be liberated by the 5 peaceful Buddhas, the 5 peaceful deities and so on, and their families and so on. As we are approaching from the bottom up, they are a tester, like I said, to make sure that we have stability in our understanding of what the Dharma is about. So that if we were to enter into this mandala, we are totally prepared to be able to do that. So the door opens both ways, and it closes for us too. So it either closes to keep us into this bardo, we could say, of the peaceful deities, this mandala of the peaceful deities, so that we have more opportunity to become liberated. It closes to keep us that way, or it closes to prevent us from getting in there because we're not prepared. So we'll talk much more about that. And so yes, so there's many opportunities to be liberated, and all these deities are interlocked with each other. And the wisdom aspect, the hot aspect of these gatekeepers here, as Debbie has pointed out, is very important, because the wisdom fire and the cooling compassion are two sides of the same hand. You know, and you can't have one without the other. So this is a realization of that. This is a practical application of that principle. Okay, anybody else? Okay. All right. So then next, we are going to go to day number 7. So what we were just talking about here was day number 6. So if you look on your table of contents, you can see where we are. So if we were reading this for someone, we would be, concentrating on day number 7 here. I know there's a number of different ways to do this and so on, but so we've broken it down in this way. Actually, it was broken down for us by Gourmet Dorje. So now we go to day number 7, which is the realization, the recognition of the hero awareness holders, or the Vidyadharas. The Vidyadharas. And the Vidyadhara means the awareness holders. A Dhara means holder, and Vidya means awareness. So it's the holy Vidyadharas, the awareness holders, who are aware of what is going on. They're holding all this stuff. So we're going to get into what this stuff is. So what I would like to do is to ask, what happened to my list? Here we go. Joanna, can you read tonight? Is Joanna still with us? There you are. Can you read tonight, Joanna?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Very good. So just
I have to leave early though, that's all.
All right. Well, do you want to read?
I will read now, yes.
Okay. Very good. All right. So, if you will read up to page, I'll tell you what, we'll make it easier. Read through page 121, 114, is that right? 114 to 121. So this is the whole day 7
Okay,
from the text. So if you will read that, please, and we can all read along. We should all follow along at the very least. So please go ahead when you're ready.
What page was that?
Page 114.
and in the name, can I put my mother's name?
Sure, whatever name you prefer.
Day 7. O child of Buddha nature and Shinko, listen without distraction. On the 7th day, a 5-faceted multicolored light, which is indicative of the purity of your habitual tendencies in the expanse of reality, will arise before you. Simultaneously, the divine assembly of the awareness holders, arising from the pure realm of the skyfarers, will come forward to escort you. In the center of this mandala, suffused by rainbows and light, the unsurpassed Vidyadhara, known as the awareness holder of maturation, Padmatasvara, will instantly arise, his body resplendent with the radiance of the 5 lights, embraced by his consort, a red dakini, who's dancing, with a blood-filled skull and a curved knife raised in the gesture of point to the sky. From the east of the mandala, the Vidyadhara, known as the awareness holder who abides on the levels, will instantaneously arise, his body white in color, his face radiant and smiling. He is embraced by his consort, a white dakini, who is dancing with a blood-filled skull and a curved knife raised in the gesture of pointing to the sky. From the south of the mandala, the Vidyadhara, known as the awareness holder with power over lifespan, will instantaneously rise. His body yellow in color and adorned with the exquisite 80 minor marks. He's embraced by his consort, a yellow dakini, who is dancing with a blood-filled skull and a curved knife raised in the gesture of pointing to the sky. From the west of the mandala, Vidyadhara, known as the awareness holder of the Great Seal, will instantaneously arise, his body red in color, his face both wrathful and smiling. He's embraced by his consort, a red dakini, who is dancing with a blood-filled skull and curved knife raised in the gesture of pointing to the sky. From the north of the mandala, the Vidyadhara, known as the awareness holder of spontaneous presence, will instantaneously arise. His body green in color, his face both wrathful and smiling. He's embraced by his consort, a green dakini, who is dancing with a blood-filled skull and curved knife raised in the gesture of pointing to the sky. Encircling these wellness holders, there will be an inestimable crowd of dakinis, the dakinis of the 8 Toronto grounds, dakinis of the 4 enlightened families, dakinis of the 3 abodes, dakinis of the 10 directions, dakinis of the 24 power places, spiritual heroes and heroines, faithful retainers, and protectors of the sacred teachings, all wearing the 6 kinds of bone ornaments, playing drums, thigh-bone trumpets, skull drums, and waving banners made of the hide of ritually liberated beings, canopies and streamers of human hide. The entire display pervaded by an incense cloud of burning human flesh, reverberating with a sound permeating all word systems, causing them to vibrate, tremble, and quake. The crescendo will reverberate as if to split your head. Performing their diverse dances, this array will come to escort those who have kept their commitments and bring to account those who have allowed their commitments to degenerate. O child of Buddha nature and Shinko, a 5-colored light, which is indicative of the purity of your habitual tendencies in the expansive reality and of co-emergent pristine cognition, composed of color threads of light, twisted together, pulsing, shimmering, translucent, radiant, clear, bright, and awesome, will emanate from the hearts of the 5 principal awareness holders and will shine piercingly before you at the level of your heart with such brilliance that your eyes cannot bear it. At that moment, a dull green light, indicative of the realms of the animals, will arise simultaneously with the light. Pristine cognition and touch your heart. At this time, bewildered and confused by your past habitual tendencies, you will be frightened by the 5-colored light and wish to turn away. Instantly, you will be attracted to the dull light of the animal realm. So therefore, do not be frightened now by the bright and flashing 5-colored light. Do not be terrified. Recognize this radiance to be pristine cognition. Within the 5-colored light, all natural sounds of sacred teachings will resound like 1,000 simultaneous peals of thunder. They will resound like a violent echo, an overwhelming reverberation, a tumultuous crescendo, a cacophony of war cries, and pound with a roar of wrathful mantras of terrifying ferocity. Do not be afraid. Do not turn away. Recognize these sounds and luminosities to be the naturally expressive power of your own awareness, manifesting naturally. Do not be attracted to the dull green light of the animals. Do not cling to it. If you become attached to it, you will fall into the obscured realms of the animals and be enveloped by limitless sufferings of obfuscation, dumbness, and servility, from which there will be no immediate opportunity for release. So do not be attached to that dull green light. Be devoted to the 5-colored light that is radiant and dazzling. Focus intently and one-pointedly on the divine assembly of the awareness holders, the transcendent lords and spiritual teachers thinking. As you, the awareness holders, together with your attending heroes and dakinis, have come forward to escort me to the pure realm of the skyfarers, I implore you, pity sentient beings such as myself, who have failed to amass the accumulations of merit and pristine cognition, and pity those such as I who have not been rescued until now, even though we've been embraced by the compassion of all the assembled deities of the 5 enlightened families, those gone to bliss throughout the 3 times. Today, may you, the divine assembly of awareness holders, not allow me to descend any further than this, Grasp me with a hook of your compassion and lead me immediately to the pure realm of the skyfarers. Focus intently and one-pointedly on the divine mantle of awareness holders. Recite the following aspirational prayer. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence driven by deep-seated habitual tendencies, may the divine assembly of awareness holders attend to me and lead me on the path with great love. May the assembly of spiritual heroes and awareness holders draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the luminescence of co-emergent pristine cognition. May the supreme consorts, the host of Dakinis, support me from behind, and thus encircled may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the sacred pure realm of the skyfarers. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated habitual tendencies, may the divine assembly of awareness holders attend to me and lead me on the path with great love. May the assembly of spiritual heroes and awareness holders draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the luminescence of co-emergent pristine cognition. May the supreme consorts, the host of Dakinis, support me from behind, and thus encircled may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the sacred pure realm of the skyfarers. Oh, as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated habitual tendencies, may the divine assembly of awareness holders attend to me and lead me on the path with great love. May the assembly of spiritual heroes and awareness holders draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the luminescence of co-emergent pristine cognition. May the supreme consorts, the host of Dakinis, support me from behind, and thus encircled may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the sacred pure realm of the skyfarers. By making this aspirational prayer with fervent devotion, you will dissolve into rainbow light in the heart of the divine assembly of the awareness holders, and thereafter undoubtedly be born into the pure realm of the skyfarers. All types of spiritual friends can attain recognition at this stage, and thus they will attain liberation. There is no doubt that even those with negative propensities can attain liberation at this point.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, so we go back to page 114. And now I'm going to screen share, because I think these illustrations are very useful. And so this is the mandala of the Vidyadhara. We're going to come back to this. First, I want to go to, let's see here. What happened to my, here we go. Okay. So here, if everybody can see this, let's set my screen up here. So these are the 10 Vidyadhara in the throat center. So what we have been focused on up to this point has been the heart center. So now we are talking about the throat center. The throat center is the mode of the expression of speech and action of a being, of a Buddha, of a Bodhisattva, of an ordinary being. So if we have had some kind of awareness, if we have had some kind of enlightenment, if we have been exposed to the Dharma and so on, that some of our action, some of our speech may be influenced by that. If we haven't had any of that preparation, then everything that we do is going to be based on emotions. Everything we do is going to be based on confusion, mental misconceptions, and so on. And so we're going to be able to recognize that. If we are a Buddha, then everything that we do is through our body, speech, and mind is going to be primarily pure. So there's not going to need to be any examination. So these 10 Vidyadhara are deities within ourselves who are the characteristics of what it is that we have been able to accomplish, accumulate, or have repressed in our lives. So this is in the throat center, and this is the natural transformation of habitual tendencies of the 6 dissonant states. So the 6 dissonant states are the states of our confusion, and they're basically the emotions. Let me just a moment. So the 6 dissonant mental states are, number 1, our fundamental ignorance. Number 2, our attachment. Number 3, our aversion. Number 4, our pride. Our number 5 is our doubt. And number 6 are the afflicted or dissonant views that are not harmonious. So these 6 mental states then are what is being revealed through our throat center. The 10 Vidyadhara, notice that they are standing, and more than just standing, they are in a dancing mode. That there is a male and there is a female. The female are the Dakinis, and they represent the wisdom, and the male is represents the skillful means or the method, the applications of that wisdom, and so on. So you see that here in the center, here on this right side of the center, here on this upper right side of the center, here in the upper left hand of the center, and the upper and the lower left hand of the center. So these are coinciding with the 5 Buddha families. So here is at the very top is Samantabhadra. Over here is Nagarjuna. And I have to apologize. I don't know who this Lama is. I probably have read it and I don't recall it right off the top of my head. So, so these are the 10 Vidyadhara in a dancing posture. And why they are dancing, what they are representing is that we are going through our lives as a dance. If you think of it, that we are, and a dance are these physical movements that we make. And we're trying to remain in balance. But sometimes we go out of balance. Sometimes that dance is interrupted by a misstep. And we're going to fall, we're going to, something's going to happen. We might harm ourselves, harm other people. Things can happen. But these dancers, these Vidyadharas are very skillful. And that when there is a fault, when there is a misstep, that they are able to incorporate that misstep into their dance. So they are dancers of the phenomenal nature. They are part of the Sambhogagaya deities. They are part of the relative nature. And so being able to make their faults become part of the dance, and by doing that, they're purifying those missteps. So it's the natural transformation of habitual tendencies in these 6 dissonant states. So this doesn't happen by itself. It happens through our realization and through our training in being able to recognize what the missteps are, what the causes of the missteps are, and what techniques we can use to purify those, to bring those onto the path. So here, and I apologize for the pixelization of this image, of all these images, because they were very small. And then I had to blow them up, and you can see the artifacts that the printer uses when they print these books, because all these images came from the book. So here in the center is the Vidyadhara Padma Narteshvara, who is the awareness holder of maturation. That's what his name represents. Awareness holder of maturation. And his Dakini is the red Dakini. So I'm going to go through these quickly and then come back to these. So then the next one is the Vidyadhara, the awareness holder who abides on the levels. So they don't give his Sanskrit name, or his Tibetan name isn't given in the book, but the translation is the awareness holder who abides on the levels, and his consort is the white Dakini. And then next is the Vidyadhara, awareness holder over lifespan. And this is the yellow Dakini as his consort. So we can see that they have, here is a yellow body, here is a white body. Here's a red body, white body, yellow body. Here is a red body. This is Vidyadhara, awareness holder of the Great Seal. And this is the red Dakini. And last is the Vidyadhara, awareness holder of spontaneous presence, and the green Dakini, and he has a blue body. So I know that these colors are showing a shift, but the artist representation is not 100% along with the book, and that's what was included in the book. So we have to look at these in their totality to be able to understand, to put these into a perspective of each other, that this is the dance that we are going through our actions and through our speech as we are as human beings. As we are human beings, we are in the phenomenal world. These are enlightened beings, but they are not perfectly enlightened beings in that they're not Buddhas. So they are there to be able to point out to us what we are doing, what is going on with us. So this awareness holder of maturation, this is bringing all these things together to be able to mature, to be able to do this, to be able to recognize this. Then the awareness holder who abides on the levels, to be able to recognize where we are on these different levels, because there are these many different levels, and to be able to ascertain where we are at any particular time, how it is that we got there, and what it is that we need to do with whatever that level is going to provide for us. Then the next is the awareness holder of power over lifespan. So here is where we have a real control of our life, of being able to recognize that if we put ourselves in harm's way, if we allow ourselves to become vulnerable to things, that it's going to cause us suffering. If we are driving dangerously, if we are going into dangerous places, if we are smoking cigarettes, I mean, so many different things that we know that are potentials to shorten our lifespan. Here is the awareness holder of power over that lifespan to be able to take control of our lives and to be able to purify ourselves and guide ourselves away from these things that are risking our long life. And then the awareness holder of the Great Seal. The Great Seal is the Mahamudra. The Mahamudra is the enlightened mind. Another name for this would be the Great Perfection, or the Dzogchen. So this is the awareness holder of the great seal, or the enlightenment mind, the mind of enlightenment. So here, this Vidyadhara is aware of that, may not be perfect in its realization, but yet is able to guide us through whatever vicissitudes we are going through, to be able to stabilize the great seal, to be able to the Mahamudra, the great perfection, the enlightened mind. And then here is the awareness holder of spontaneous presence. One of the great things, one of the great enjoyment factors, or maybe factors is the wrong word, but one of the great enjoyment displays of enlightenment is our spontaneous presence. And the spontaneity of our bodhicitta, of our loving kindness, of our compassion, of our joy, and of our equanimity. All the enlightened beings have those four qualities: boundless loving kindness, boundless wisdom, boundless compassion, which is boundless skillful means or method, boundless joy, empathetic joy, and recognizing that we have this subtle, body, we have this subtle wisdom, we have this subtle compassion, we have this subtleness about us, and we're like this dancer who is enjoying all of this. And then the spontaneous equanimity, the equanimity that does not differentiate between beings, that we have love and compassion for all beings equally. It doesn't matter whether they're our friends, whether they're our family, or whether they're our enemies, whether they live halfway around the world, of whatever background they come from. We love everyone the same. All enlightened beings have that equanimity for all beings. And this is a spontaneous presence of this bodhicitta. So these are the awareness holders. So they are indicators. We need to listen to ourselves as we are engaged in whatever we are doing with our friends, with our families, with our studies, with our work, whatever it is that we're doing. We are constantly revealing ourselves to other beings, to the phenomenal nature, and to ourselves. And we need to be able to recognize that and take responsibility for that and listen to ourselves, listen what we say, listen to what we do. And if we make a mistake, to recognize that and back up and correct the mistake as quickly as we can. And that if we are enjoying what we're doing, we should be enjoying all of this. So these five qualities we should be embracing as part of our realization of who we are as our Buddha nature, our true nature. So as we said, this is the natural transformation of our habitual tendencies of the 6 dissonant states. So I'm sure we all recognize that we have habitual tendencies to do certain things, no matter how purified we've been in a certain circumstance, we are still going to trip ourselves up. We're still going to say the same stupid thing that we've been saying all our lifetimes. Where does that come from? That's maybe a karmic seed that came from a prior existence that is still with us, that we have suppressed and we haven't allowed it to come up into fruition so that we can recognize it, so that we can deal with it, so that we can neutralize it. So these habitual tendencies are these things that come up. But we can transform those natural tendencies, or those habitual tendencies, into virtue. So there may be virtuous habitual tendencies that we already have, or that we have overcome, that we have already been able to apply the teachings of the Dharma. And we've been able to overcome and neutralize negative karma. And our natural habitual tendency now is to characterize those new virtues or those virtues within ourselves. And we recognize that, and we're very grateful for that. But those negative ones that are still coming up, we can transform, and they can become our new habitual tendencies. And over time, we can see if that's really taking hold, or are we kind of rationalizing with ourselves that we've improved ourselves, but in those certain situations, we'll reveal to ourselves that, oh no, we still have work to do. So these deities, the 10 Vidyadharas, help us to recognize that. So I'm trying to, I'll just go here first. So what do you think about that?
Can you hear me, Lance?
What's that?
I was just wondering if you could hear me. It's Curtis.
Yes, but not very good. You're very, very quiet.
Okay.
That's much better.
Okay, good. I think I finally figured out the 10 Vajrasattva. They're the lower 5 figures. The 3 at the top of that picture you had are not the Vidyadharas.
No, they're not.
Okay, so that was what I was curious about. What's your best guess as to 3 top figures? You mentioned 2.
I think one is Nagarjuna, one is definitely Samantabhadra, and I don't know what the third one is.
Okay, thank you.
It might be Jason Kappa. But, in this particular discussion, they're not, of the focus of this particular discussion right now. We're focused on the Vidyadhara right now. Okay. And just to put this in another, oops, went up to the screen share. There we go. I just want to point this out to you. I'm going to go back to the very beginning. So if we look at this picture here, then you see that here are the peaceful deities, the 42 peaceful deities, and you see the Vidyadhara right up here. Here is Samantabhadra and Samantabhadri. Here's Varanchana, and here are the 4 Buddha families, and then here are the 6 sages. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Here are the gatekeepers right here. These are the gatekeepers in the 4 corners. Whoops. In the 4 corners. Here are the Vidyadhara here. So all this is all encapsulated in this one picture. And then down here are Dharma protectors. So, so that's where these images are coming from.
So Lance, I have a question. I
Okay.
mean, they're there, as you just showed in the mandala of the 42 peaceful deities, but they're actually not there in the math. They're not counted
They are
either in the
own,
42 or 48 or 52, right?
they are in their own mandala. So let me see if I can get that.
So they're corresponding, as you say, they correlate with the Buddha families, but they're not sons or daughters of the Buddhas. They feel more like crazy wisdom aunts and uncles or something. I don't know, but I just find them fascinating because they have this wildness and ecstasy to them that feels different than the peaceful and wrathful deity mandalas.
Right. Well, there it is. So here is the mandala. This is their own mandala.
Mm-hmm.
So here you can see, and they have the 5 lights within them. Each one of them have the 5 lights. So you have this mandala. If I sent you the email, this was in the email that I sent everybody. So here is the center, and here is the white, here is the yellow, red, and green, and so on. And then here are, you know, their representations of what they their activities, what they mean, what I just went through, and so on. So you have this available to you, and it's there for your study, and it's also elaborated in the book. So these are like revealers. They have a very practical purpose.
So the 5 squiggles by each one, those are the 5 lights, the braided lights.
It's just
in the text?
representing the 5 lights coming together, yes, like in a braid. So if you
Okay.
look at the pictures in the book, so if you look at starting on page 114 and continuing on, then you see their images on the left and right side of the text. So it's all there. And then if you go to page 117, you see that braid of these 5 lights all entwined with each other. And so they are representing the purity of the 5 Buddha families. And you see on the right side of the page, you see the green light, the dull green light, that if we don't recognize this intertwined braid of the 5 colored lights, then, excuse me, we can be seduced by the green light and be pulled into the animal realm. So being able to recognize this is very important. So, you know, and the analogy of the animal is that we know better, but we continue to do the stupid thing. Isn't that what animals do? You know, and as human beings, we really typify that. I mean, we can't say that, you know, that animals, you know, they're not conscious of that. But when we are recognizing that we are acting like an animal, it's because we know better, but we continue to do that animalistic thing. So this happens to us all the time. Remember, all this is happening to us now. We are preparing ourselves for the Bardo. We don't have to go through all this stuff that we've been going through and all this stuff that's going to come. We probably will to some degree because, you know, we're beginners in this. But the point is that if we are prepared to the point that we are already in the clear light. We are already realizing ourselves as Buddha. We are seeing our Buddha nature. We are already awakened as a human being, so that when we give up our human body, what is left is our pure nature, is our spiritual body, if you will, and it's just being liberated into the Dharmakaya, into its pure nature. So that's what we're trying to do in this life, is to stabilize our awareness of our pure nature, of our Buddha nature. The Mahamudra, the Great Seal, the Dzogchen. If we don't do that, we still have suffering. We have suffering in this life. And when we pass, we know that we are going to go through the Bardo, and we are going to have opportunity to be liberated, to be rescued by these wonderful deities and so on. But if we're not prepared for that, we just keep going back down to be reborn in another body and start that process all over again. You know, but hopefully we will do it in a more enlightened fashion. That because we have been exposed to these things, we're carrying that virtue with us. And it's not that it's with our body or something like that. You know, we are just the holders, the temporary holders of these things that all human beings have gone through. And it's just all coalesced within each of our bodies. To whatever degree our life force has been able to manage that. So I like to think that when we give up our bodies, when we pass away, when our bodies pass away and we become pure spirit, that we have the ability, that there is a potential, at least in my mind, which is emptiness, which is phenomenal, but there is a coalescence of energy. And then there is a future Buddha that is prophesied, the Buddha Maitreya, and that many beings their energy will all concentrate into that Buddha Maitreya, who will materialize again for the benefit of the enlightenment of all sentient beings. So whether it's Buddha Maitreya, or it's Amagog City, or it's Amitabha, any of the Buddhas that we talk about, you know, this is what we are using these as symbols of pure nature. Is this making any sense? So these are things to meditate upon. These are things not to take my word for it, not to take Gurme Dorje's translation for, or even Padmasambhava's word for it, or Yeshe Shogul, who wrote these things down and buried these. These are for us to be able to become the embodiment of ourselves. So we have to practice this. We have to study this. We have to read this. We have to understand this. So now if I can go back quickly and see if there's some things that I left off here. So I'm back on page 114. So I started off with the pictures because a picture tells, you know, is better than 1,000 words, right? O child of Buddha nature, listen without distraction on the seventh day, a five-faceted multicolored light, which is indicative of the purity of your habitual tendencies, is in the expanse of reality. In the expanse of reality will arise before you. Are we in reality now? Do you think we're in reality now? Or is reality when we die?
We are in reality.
What's that?
We are in reality.
That's right. But we're only seeing one part of it. So what we have to do is recognize the other part of it. Reality has two sides. There's a samsaric side and there's a nirvana side. And see it as the same reality, to recognize it as the same reality. But we choose to suppress one of the, well, not, we don't suppress, well, we do suppress. We don't suppress samsara, we liberate samsara. So carrying on, simultaneously, the divine assembly of the awareness holders arising from the pure realm of the skyfarers will come forward to escort you. So here, the skyfarers. Here is the name skyfarers, which is the translation of Dakini. Dakini is a Sanskrit word that means skyfarer. And so like that, there are these beings that are flying around in the sky, so to speak. You know? So I used to think, and you know, in some ways it's useful to use the analogy of like angels. that are flying about and so on. They're not bound by time. They're not bound by space, but they're there to whisper in our ears, so to speak, the virtue, the wisdom. So are we listening to that, or are we listening to the bad angels who are leading us down the animalistic path to suffering? So the pure realm of the skyfarers. In Tibetan, they are called the Khandros. Khandros is the Tibetan word for Dakini.
Lance, would that include the Dakas too?
The Dakas are the male skyfarers, yes. And sometimes they're referred to as the Dharma protectors, but you see the name Dakas and Dakinis. It hasn't been really made clear to me. Maybe in the practices that I've done, I haven't really seen an illustration of a Daka, so maybe I just haven't gotten to that point yet. Maybe it's not necessary. In any case, so back on page 114 at the bottom paragraph, it says, in the center of this mandala, suffused by rainbows and light, the unsurpassed Vidyadhara, known as the awareness holder of maturation, Padma Nateshvara, will instantly arise, his body resplendent with the radiance of the 5 lights, embraced by his consort, a red Dakini who is dancing with a blood-filled skull and curved knife raised in the gesture of pointing to the sky. So this Dakini is a Dakini of wisdom. She has the blood-filled skull cup, which represents this enlightened mind. And it represents the purity of that which we might consider to be repugnant. Would we want to drink a vessel full of blood or of excrement or stuff that we would think is just disgusting? For them, it's pure enjoyment. There's no difference. They don't see it as filth. They don't see it that way because it's purified. They see it in its true nature as being all pure. We see it in this dualistic form. We see it as being repugnant. So can we enjoy all life as blood in that vessel, in that conch shell, the kapala? It's not a conch shell, it's a skull cup. So can we enjoy life in that way and be able to liberate whatever non-virtue, virtue, be able to bring them together to be able to neutralize that? And the curved knife is raised to the gesture of pointing to the sky. The sky as a protection. If we look at the atmosphere as a protection from all the radiation and all the stuff that's happening out there, in the universe, all these other rays and stuff like that, that if we didn't have the sky, we'd burn up in an instant. So this curved knife, this hook knife, is to cut off our afflictive emotions and raising it to the sky like it's our protection. So this curved knife is, as we cut off these afflictive emotions, we're actually protecting ourselves. We're cutting off the causes of our suffering and thereby protecting ourselves. So each one of the Dakinis is holding the same implements, holding a skull cup of blood and holding a hook knife, a curved knife at the sky like that. From the east of the mandala, I'm back on page 115. From the east of the mandala, the Vidyadhara, known as the awareness holder who abides on the levels, will instantaneously arise, his body white in color, his face radiant and smiling. He is embraced by his consort, a white Dakini, who is dancing with a blood-filled skull and curved knife raised in the gesture of pointing to the sky. Then from the south, the mandala, the Vidyadhara, known as the awareness holder with power over lifespan, will instantaneously arise. his body yellow in color and adorned with the exquisite 80 minor marks. He is embraced by his consort, a yellow dakini who is dancing in the blood-filled skull and curved knife raised in the gesture of pointing to the sky. The 80 minor marks are like the personality traits, the characteristics of a being, of a holy being. When we talk about the Buddha, we talk about the 32 major marks and the 80 minor marks. You've heard that before, 112 altogether, the marks of the Buddha. So the 32 major marks are physical characteristics of the Buddha. But the 80 minor marks are these like personality things, are ways in which the Buddha or the enlightened one interacts with phenomenal nature. So that's what is being characterized here. So in the arena, if you will, of the lifespan, that we have power over lifespan through these 80 minor marks, through these 80 characteristics. So you can look these up, you can Google them. They're in the Jewel Ornamental Liberation. They're in many books. So you can, if you want to examine that, you can do that. So now the bottom paragraph of 115, from the west of the mandala, the Vidyadhara, known as the awareness holder of the Great Seal, will instantaneously arise, his body red in color, his face both wrathful and smiling. He is embraced by his consort, a red dakini, who is dancing with a blood-filled skull and curved knife raised in the gesture of pointing to the sky. So I said that this Great Seal is the enlightened mind, is the Mahamudra, or the great perfection, the Dzogchen. Then on page 16, the north of the mandala, the Vidyadhara, known as the awareness holder of spontaneous presence, will instantaneously arise. His body green in color, his face both wrathful and smiling. He is embraced by his consort, a green dakini who is dancing with blood-filled skull and curved knife raised in the gesture of pointing to the sky. Spontaneous presence. So this activity, whatever it does, is a spontaneous activity that is virtuous, that is happy, that is bodhicitta. Then it goes into this detail that is not characterized by any of these illustrations. It says, encircling these awareness holders, there will be inestimable crowds of dakinis, the dakinis of the 8 charnel grounds, dakinis of the 4 enlightened families, dakinis of the 3 abodes, dakinis of the 10 directions, dakini of the 24 power places, spiritual heroes and heroines, faithful retainers and protectors of the sacred teachings, all wearing 6 kinds of bone ornaments, playing drums, thigh bones, skull drums, and waving banners made of the hide of ritually liberated beings, canopies and streamers of human hide, the entire display pervaded by an incense cloud of burning human flesh, reverberating with the sound permeating all world systems, causing them to vibrate, tremble, and quake. The crescendo will reverberate as if to split your head. Performing their diverse dances, this array will come to escort you to those who have kept their commitments and bring to account all those who have allowed their commitments to degenerate. So this is a bit of a mind blower, because here is this gruesome scene of all these human parts and these beings doing things with these human parts. And what it represents is the transcendence of the body, the transcendence of the intellect that is tied to the body. And if we have attachment to these things, if we have aversion to these things, we see that we are not liberated. We see that we are bound to these things as being positive or negative. But if we look at these things as just this play of a display of phenomenal nature, and that we are transcendent of any suffering, then that is where we want to be. That is our true nature. So we prepare ourselves with many, many different practices that we do, in our Dharma practice, in the tantric practices. See, the tantra practices prepare ourselves for this. There's all these different, Gana chakra practices. There's all these smoke offerings. There's all these charnel ground chud practices. There's many practices that are preparing ourselves for that. So if anybody has questions about that, we can stop and talk about it. But I think what it's pointing out is that all these things are just mental appearances and judgments that we make of these appearances. And if we can release our attachment to those appearances, and most importantly, be able to liberate from the judgments of those appearances, that's what we're trying to do. That's liberation. That's Mahamudra. It's not that these things aren't happening. They're happening in this temporary phenomenal realm. And we see it that way. We don't see it as permanent anymore. So then we're on page 117 now in the middle. It says, "Oh, child of Buddha nature, Rikibu, 5-colored light, which is indicative of the purity of your habitual tendencies in the expanse of reality and of convergent, pristine cognition, composed of colored threads of light twisted together, pulsing, shimmering, translucent, radiant, clear, bright, and awesome, will emanate from the hearts of the 5 principal awareness holders and will shine piercingly before you at the level of your heart with such brilliance that your eyes cannot bear it." So this is where the Vidyadhara are actively engaging with us. They're revealing to us who we are, but at the same time, they're also providing us with a way out. As we recognize who we are, then we have the way out. We say, oh, that's my temporary nature. And they're indicative of those 5 particular qualities: maturation, life on the levels, etc. So it's a little bit more subtle. We need to meditate on this. We need to really, allow ourselves some time to take this apart and put it back together again many times. You're not going to get it the first time. It may be shocking to you right now. But these lights, these are the lights of the 5 Buddha families. You see, it's all intertwined with each other here. Okay. The habitual tendencies in the expanse of reality, the purity of your habitual tendency in the expanse of reality, this expanse of reality of phenomenal nature broken down into samsara and nirvana. And the co-emergent pristine cognition. The co-emergent means it is rising together. It's co-emergent, it's all rising together, this pristine cognition. The pristine cognition is the pure light, is the clear light, the pristine cognition. All this coming together now and being able to see all this together clearly. The clear red light, the clear blue light, the clear green light. Each has their clarity about it, but then all coming together into Mahamudra awareness. So then at the bottom of page 117, it says, at that moment, a dull green light, indicative of the realms of the animals, will arise simultaneously with the light of pristine cognition and touch your heart. It's touching your heart, this animal. This is what's familiar to me. This is what I've come from. Maybe I can go back there because this other stuff is I'm not prepared for this. So let me go back to that. It's touching our heart in that way. But are we strong enough in our understanding and our realization to be able to withstand that, to be able to allow ourselves to be liberated from it? There is no touching our heart. At this time, bewildered and confused by your past habitual tendencies, you will be frightened by the 5 colored lights and wish to turn away. Instantly, you will be attracted to the dull light of the animal realms. So therefore, do not be frightened now by the bright and flashing 5 colored light. Do not be terrified. Recognize this radiance to be pristine cognition. Within the 5 colored light, all the natural sounds of the sacred teachings will resound like 1,000 simultaneous peals of thunder. They will resound like a violent echo, an overwhelming reverberation, a tumultuous crescendo, a cacophony of war cries, a pound with the roar of wrathful mantras of terrifying ferocity. Do not be afraid. Do not turn away. Recognize these sounds and luminosities to be the naturally expressive power of your own awareness, manifesting naturally. Do not be attached to this dull green light of the animals. Do not cling to it. So just like a great, thunderstorm, a lightning storm is just, passed over our region tonight. And, was it fear that we had? Was it excitement that we had? Did we recognize that we're part of that nature? And that light that comes from that, is that not part of our nature? That sound is part of our nature. Those rays are part of our nature. That all the sounds, all the lights, all the rays are our own nature. We're only perceiving this with our senses, our 5 body senses. If we don't have those 5 body senses, then nothing can harm us. Okay, back to page 118 in the middle. With the 5 colored light, all the natural sounds of the sacred teachings are, I just read that. No, I just read that, 118, 119. If you become attached to it, you will fall to the obscured realms of the animals and be enveloped by the limitless sufferings of obscuration, dumbness, and servility, from which there will be no immediate opportunity for release. So do not be attached to that dull green light. Be devoted to the 5 colored light that is radiant and dazzling. Focus intently and one-pointedly on the divine assembly of the awareness holders, the transcendent lords and spiritual teachers thinking. Now, this phenomenal appearance of this light and so on, and the human realm and so on, and are being attached to it. And here it's saying that we're entering into the animal realm. And aren't we animal? We're basically animal, aren't we? So are we responding to it in that animalistic way? Or have we opened ourselves up to the possibility that there are other dimensions? And that if we keep on coming back to this 3-dimensional life, this limited life that we have as a human being, as an animal, are we not, just regressing? Here we are on the threshold of being able to liberate ourselves into what we might call the 4th dimension or 5th dimension or 6th dimension or whatever, something that as a human being is incomprehensible. Maybe it's only an aspiration for us. But maybe we've had some experience with it through our meditation. Maybe we've had some glimpses of it through our meditation. But things that we cannot express. But for a time, there was no time. In a place where there was no place. But there was this liberation in our meditation that became now that tractor beam of those Buddhas that are pulling us into their realm of liberation, of freedom, of enlightenment, whatever we can call it. And all of it falls short. Whatever we can call it falls short of what it is. So now thinking, page 119 in the middle, as you, the awareness holders, together with your attending heroes and dakinis, have come forward to escort me to the pure realm of the skyfarers. Let me repeat that. As you, the awareness holders, together with your attending heroes and dakinis, so all those other beings and everything, have come forward to escort me to the pure realm of skyfarers, to the dakinis, to the high dakinis. I implore you to pity sentient beings such as myself who have failed to amass the accumulations of merit and pristine cognition, and pity those such as I who have not been rescued until now, even though we have been embraced by the compassion of all the assembled deities of the 5 enlightened families, those gone to bliss throughout the 3 times. Today, may you, the divine assembly of awareness holders, not allow me to descend any further than this. Grasp me with the hook of your compassion and lead me immediately to the pure realm of the skyfarers. So here, being pulled into the realm of it's explained as the Kachari. Kachari is like the heaven, for lack of a better word, of the skyfarers, so that we might not be ready to become a bodhisattva. We not be ready to become a Buddha, but we may be ready to become a dakini or a hero awareness holder. Then, there's levels of enlightenment. So, and to be able to recognize that in this life, in this body, that yes, there's work I can do as a skyfarer. There's work I can do as a bodhisattva. There's work I would like to do as a Buddha. So being able to recognize that recognizing that level and working in that level does not mean that you're eliminating any other levels. But it's being able to see yourself now with a different purpose. So it says, grasp me with the hook of your compassion and lead me immediately to the pure land of the skyfarers, Kachari. So, and that can also take you to, back into the heart center and back into the to the Buddhas. So then here is the prayer. Focus intently and one-pointedly on the divine mala of the awareness holders. Recite the following aspirational prayer. So here, focus intently and one-pointedly. Everything that we talk about is about developing one-pointed mindfulness. Keep saying it over and over again. Are we ready? Are we capable of one-pointed mindfulness? If we're not capable with this body, it's not likely we're going to be capable of doing it in the Bardo of reality. If we can't do it in this Bardo, we're not going to be able to do it in that Bardo. So it's in this Bardo that we are developing the skills to be able to do it. We're already creating that Bardo of reality as a human being. That we see all this as a Buddha field, and that this Buddha field, each of us has our own Buddha field. We are all Buddha. We all have that potential, but it's all blocked up. You remove the blockages, then there's the Buddha. So focus intently and one pointedly on the divine mandala of awareness holders. Recite the following aspirational prayer. Or as I roam in cyclic existence, driven by deep-seated habitual tendencies, may the divine assembly of awareness holders attend to me and lead me on the path with great love. May the assembly of spiritual heroes and awareness holders draw me forward, leading me on the path of radiant light, which is the luminescence of co-emergent pristine cognition. All that coming together. May the supreme consorts, the host of Dakini, support me from behind, and thus encircled may I be rescued from the fearsome passageway of the intermediate state and be escorted to the sacred pure realm of the skyfarers, Kachari. By making this aspirational prayer with fervent devotion, you will dissolve into rainbow light in the heart of the divine assembly of awareness holders, and thereafter undoubtedly be born into the pure realm of the skyfarers. All types of spiritual friends can attain recognition at this stage, and thus they will attain liberation. There is no doubt that even those with negative propensities can attain liberation at this point. So just to put a point at the end of this now, page 122, it says, this concludes the first part of the Great Liberation by Hearing, the introduction to inner radiance in the intermediate state of the time of death, and the introduction to the peaceful deities of the intermediate state of reality. Iti samaya graya graya graya. So here we kind of celebrate that we have this priceless teaching, this priceless practice, this priceless elaboration on the transcendence of our human form. So,
Zaya mean?
did you have something to say, Curtis?
What does Zaya mean exactly?
I think it means cutting through. Maybe Raghu would know exactly what that is.
Raghu, what does Zaya mean? He doesn't know.
You know, well, let me see. I think I got it here in this book so I can speak somewhat intelligently.
At the end of the Mahakala practice, it says Zaya, city, pala, home.
That's what I was just looking for. But I think I made myself a note.
It means seal the Samaya.
It means victory. Victory.
And Kachari, you mentioned the word Kachari, the realm of the skyfarers. Is that a pure land?
Yes. It's like we would call it maybe a heaven. So in that realm, in that heaven, you know, to be then we would, the notion is that we would be born as a skyfarer. We wouldn't be born as a human being. We wouldn't be born as a bodhisattva or a Buddha, but we would be born as a Dakini or a Daka, one of the skyfarers, and be able to, and Kachari is all around us. I mean, all this is all around us. We are all part of all this. It's just a matter of being able to recognize it and accepting the responsibilities or the roles that we play in those arenas.
Lance,
Yes, sir.
when you say born, how are the Dakinis born?
Miraculously. Right? How many modes of birth are there? Adrian?
4, right?
I'm asking Adrian.
I think it was by I know the egg moisture miraculously, and I forgot. Ours was by womb, right?
That's right.
Okay. Was there another one?
There's 4 of them.
Yeah.
So what were the 4 again?
I think by womb, egg, moisture, not moisture, but is it moisture?
Heat and moisture.
Heat and moisture and miraculous.
Correct.
Okay.
So being born in any of these seems like a miracle, but especially in these higher realms like that, then that would be a miraculous birth.
It is miraculous for us, but
But likewise, being born in the hell realm, that's a miraculous birth too. The gods go immediately to the hell realms.
Mhm.
Does somebody else have a question or comment?
Lance, I'm looking at the Vidyadhara mandala and looking for the 3 kayas and wondering if in that inestimable crowd of dakinis around the circle on the edge, some of them seem more Nirmanakaya, the charnel grounds one. Is that where the Nirmanakaya is in this mandala?
Well,
Partly
you got to
throughout that out.
understand that this is all part of the Sambhaga Gaya, and it is all part of phenomenal nature.
Yeah.
So this is weaving itself in and around all that is phenomenal nature. So it may have, maybe we could say tendrils, or it has work, and like I said, sometimes it's like we have an angel, we have a dakini on our shoulder who's whispering in our ear,
Mhm.
and that's a vast, general characterization. But yes, they are present all around us, within ourselves. And sometimes even now we act like that. We don't know. Have you ever done something welled up inside of you and you don't know where that wisdom came from? That maybe helped yourself, or you were able to help somebody else in some, situation that, and you say, where did that come from? That's an expression of Kachari, or these different beings manifesting in a way that totally surprises us, because we don't realize that that's part of who we are. We're all part of that spiritual nature.
Lance, I have a question.
All right.
You're talking about liberation to the pure realm of the skyfarers as a dakini, or to Pure Land. Does that mean that we don't have to take a human birth again?
That's I think that's the implication. Yes.
Okay.
I can't speak in an absolute way, but I would imagine at that point you're not going backwards.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Okay, thank you.
So Lance, what is dakini?
What is dakini?
Yeah, what is that? What is that? Is that like a 2-legged person, or is that like?
It's whatever it wants to be. You know, we shouldn't take it as being literally anything like that, you know, but it takes whatever form it wants to take.
So in other words, it's greater or higher on the ladder, so to speak, than what we are.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes. It is a
and
spiritual,
it does-
it is a spiritually realized being who is beyond,
and-
who is transcended the human nature. However,
in
that
other
doesn't
words-
mean that it can't manifest as a human or as a dog or a cat or any other animal or any other thing.
In other words, it's not a human being.
It can manifest as a human being. It is a spirit. Anybody else got a thought? Oh my goodness, look what time it is. I didn't realize what time it is.
I have a quick question, just a matter of clarity. We're talking about the, I'll call them the angelic dakinis. When it's a worldly dakini, does that necessarily mean they're, how would you describe them in comparison to this, to the, I'll call the angelic dakinis?
There's 3 levels of dakini, and frankly, I'm not well versed right now in those 3 levels. But I think here what is being talked about are the, as you call the angelic, you know, dakinis that would be in this realm of Kachari. So, but there are lesser dakinis who would be more involved in everyday things as beings. You know, sometimes we say, oh, you know, so-and-so is like a dakini. And maybe they are, you know, but they're purely in the human realm doing human things that are helping people to transcend themselves, but very temporarily and so on. And you know, so it's kind of like an honorific title that we might give to somebody, and it's not completely positive that they are going to remain as that kind of a level dakini for the rest of their lives. But for that space and time, they are behaving like a dakini, the lower level dakini. So probably can look it up. I can look it up and see. It's a fair question. Okay, anybody else got something? Okay. All right, then if you don't mind, Debbie, because you probably have it easier than I do, can you put up the Amitabha prayer? And I would like to give a little explanation of that as we recite that. This is the brief prayer to be reborn in the blissful Pure Land of Dewachen. Dewachen is the Tibetan name for Sukhavati. Sukhavati is the Sanskrit name of the Pure Land of the Buddha Amitabha. Buddha Amitabha is the wisdom, wisdom of discriminating awareness. He's one of the 5 Buddha families. And Amitabha is the most accessible by ordinary human beings of the 5 Buddha families, or is accessible by us to enter into the realm of the 5 Buddha families through the wisdom of discriminating awareness, from being able to control our emotions, particularly of desire and so on. So this prayer is a remembrance of that, this aspiration prayer to be born in this. So it says Emaho, which is an expression of great jubilation. In the center is the marvelous Buddha Amitabha of boundless light. So we're visualizing this great Buddha field, and at the center is Buddha Amitabha. Amitabha, his name means boundless light, the boundless light of this Buddha field, and light being, that which illuminates darkness or ignorance. On the right side is Avalokiteshvara, the Lord of great compassion. So Avalokiteshvara is the bodhisattva of compassion. So he's characterized as, standing and having 1,000 arms and so on, and seeing all the suffering of beings. So he's on the right of Amitabha. And on the left is Vajrapani, the Lord of powerful means. So he is a wrathful deity, bodhisattva, who you might remember has a dorje in one hand, a vajra in one hand, the other one he's got a lasso. If you remember, we talked about all these bodhisattvas a few weeks ago when we were talking about the 8 great bodhisattvas. So Avalokiteshvara is one of them, and Vajrapani is another of them. So Vajrapani represents the power of Dharma, and Avalokiteshvara represents the compassion of Dharma. So all are surrounded by limitless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. They're everywhere. Immeasurable peace and happiness is the pure land, the blissful pure land of Dewa Chen, which is that Buddha field of Amitabha. When I and all beings pass from samsara, when we die, when we give up this body, or when we are liberated in our meditation, and we are able to maintain our physicality, but at the same time, we have transcended any suffering, so we can be a living Buddha. We can be a living Bodhisattva. So when we pass from samsara, may we be born in Dewa Chen without taking samsaric rebirth. So whether we're coming out of our meditation, or we are going in, we have died and we've left our body and we've gone into the Bardo, may we be not taking another samsaric rebirth. May I have the blessing of meeting Amitabha face to face. May I recognize Amitabha face to face. And Amitabha is us, to be able to recognize that, to see that in ourselves. By the power and blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions. So we talked about that, all the 4 directions of the compass and the intermediate directions of the compass, up and down, or inside and out, however you wish to look at it. May I attain this aspiration without hindrance. So may I attain the liberation of Amitabha without hindrance. So Teata, Pensadriwa, Abo Bodhane Soha. Here's the translation. This is it. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 5 families who have destroyed defilement. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 5 families who have destroyed defilement lead to equipoise, lead to the enlightened mind, lead to equipoise. May this be accomplished. Soha, may this be accomplished. So what this is saying is that this is it. All these Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, these are the things, that are leading us to enlightenment. They are showing us the way. They are the exemplars. They are the perfection of overcoming defilement. We wouldn't want to follow somebody who is not perfectly enlightened. Just partially. We wouldn't want to find that. We want to follow a Buddha or a Bodhisattva who is completely enlightened. That's what leads us. So these practices that we do, these deity yoga practices, is that leadership. That's where we find what this is. We discover it and we apply it in our own lives. So now please recite with me this prayer. Emaho. In the center is the marvelous Buddha Amitabha of boundless light. On the right side is Avalokiteshvara, the Lord of great compassion. On the left is Vajrapani, the Lord of powerful means. All are surrounded by limitless Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Immeasurable peace and happiness is the blissful Pure Land of Dewachen. When I and all beings pass from samsara, may we be born in Dewachen without taking samsaric rebirth. May I have the blessing of meeting Amitabha face to face. By the power and blessings of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 10 directions, may I attain this aspiration without hindrance. Teata, Pensadriva, Awa Bodhanaya, Soha. This is it. The Buddhas and Bodhisattvas of the 5 families and the 3 times who have destroyed defilement lead to the enlightened mind. Soha, may it be accomplished. Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Om Mani Padme Hum Shri. Om Ahum. Om Ahum. Om Ahum. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Lance.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Lance, and everyone.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Debbie, for everything that you do, keeping us organized, keeping us on time, doing leading prayers. Thank
You're
you, Debbie.
welcome.
Thank you, Debbie.
And John,
Thank
I did
you.
upload the document you asked for that Lance sent out earlier this week. It's in chat.
So if you want to download it now would be the time. Otherwise,
I looked, I don't see any, is it, did you send a link? Or the
Oh.
I don't see at all any of that there in chat.
Are you in the part for
I see.
everyone?
Yeah,
And
I mean, I get everything that comes to me plus anything that anybody else sends to me.
right. I'm showing that it went to everyone an Adobe Acrobat file that says the 5 Peaceful Buddha Families V2
If you're on
PDF.
your phone, because you can't download from your phone. You can, if you send a document
Oh,
in chat, it doesn't, you can't get it if you're on your phone.
that's why, perhaps.
So,
So
look forward to
I'll
seeing it
just
by email.
so John, what were you saying?
email you a quick note And then that's what I was gonna do anyway.
All right, I sent it to everybody. I'm sure you were on the list a couple of weeks ago. I sent that file with those mandalas on there.
That I got, but there was, apparently there was a spreadsheet that you
Oh,
sent
the
this week or
spreadsheet. Well, I
something.
just sent that, what, yesterday or today? Yesterday, I think.
That's the one I didn't get,
You didn't get that.
but I'll send you an email anyway.
All right, I'll be
it's no
glad to
big
send
deal.
it again.
Yeah,
And I will send the pictures very soon.
sure, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Lance. This was wonderful. And yay for us. We're all the way through the peaceful deities.
Yes, we got
Onward.
through part 1. Congratulations.
Emaho.
Emaho, yes. I
Now you
hope,
got to get us through the tough ones.
yeah, wait till the next one comes.
We have to fasten our seatbelts.
That's right. Buckle up.
Good night. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good
Thank
night,
you.
everyone.
Be safe.
Good
Thank you
night.
very- Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Tomorrow night, we're showing the next part of the film of Milarepa. So.
Good night. Yeah.
Film is really getting good now. I highly recommend it.
Okay, thank you, Curtis. Thank you, everybody. All right.
Thank you.
Good night, John. Good night, Dan.
Good night.
Good night, Curtis.
Good night,
Night.
Lance.
Good night. All right. Jerry, bye-bye.